Episode 20. Getting drunk again. She did not recognize any of the wine brands, but just blindly drank. Then she grabbed a few bottles of wine and a crystal wine glass, and she placed them on the table. Wrapping her long fingers around the glass, she felt the heat of her body leach into the wine. She raised the glass and took a sip, feeling a keen burn on her tongue and throat. Dario pushed open the door and gazed at her smooth fair neck that was pure and flawless like a swan. Jade glanced at him and then quietly took out another cup. She then poured a glass of wine as an invitation to drink with her. "I don't want to drink with a crazy drunk woman. Who knows what you might do to me?" Jade did not react to his words. She just bit her lower lip and poured herself another glass of wine. She chugged it down with her eyes closed. She neither knew how expensive the wine was or how strong. After chugging down her glass of wine, she felt a burning sensation in her stomach and began to feel dizzy. She glanced at the bottle and vividly saw the number 15. Could this wine contain 15% alcohol? "Keep on drinking," Dario said in a cold voice as he looked at the other glass of wine. Jade squinted her eyes, lifted her head, and saw him staring at her. However, his gaze was unfathomable, making it difficult for her to tell what he was thinking. Why was this man so inscrutable? She pursed her lips and remained silent. She desperately gulped down all the wine. In the next moment, her face was red. Her body started to heat up, and she felt slightly dizzy. When she thought about how Bruce betrayed her, how her aunt and uncle forced her to marry a stranger, and how her cousin mocked her, her heart felt like an insatiable fire that burnt all the oxygen in her body, leaving her listless and empty. What hurt the most was that she could not do anything for her grandmother, who was now in the hospital and loved her more than anyone else did. As she thought about these memories, Jade's eyes instantly filled with tears. She picked up the wine bottle instead of the glass and planned to drink directly from the bottle. But just when the cold bottle was about to touch Jade's lips, Dario suddenly grabbed the bottle from her hands. Then a cold voice rang in her ear. "If you keep drinking, I'll throw you out." Jade felt her whole body go limp, probably because she was drunk. She stared at him in a daze and giggled all of a sudden. Then she said with certainty, "Let me out. I don't believe that you'll throw me out." At that moment, she did not know how she could be so presumptuous while drunk in front of a stranger. Maybe it was that she subconsciously felt safe being with him. Since he had not hurt her, how bad could he be? Besides, he was 1,000 times better than the people in her family. "Give me the wine, it's mine." Jade looked for the wine bottle. When she finally realized it was in Dario's hands, she pounced on him. However, Dario raised up his arm while holding the bottle and did not intend to give it to her. "Give it to me now, I want to drink it." Jade grabbed Dario's shirt and pestered him. Unfortunately, he was so tall that she could not reach the bottle of wine he was holding. She thought she would try to outsmart him by stepping on his feet so that she could reach the bottle. Unexpectedly, her gesture brought them closer to each other. Dario's star-like pupils contracted, and he grabbed her around the waist with the other hand because he was afraid that she might fall. As she leaned against his warm chest, Jade could not help but snuggle against him. She could not understand why she felt so comfortable around him. She lifted her hazy eyes to his flawless and handsome face. Maybe it was because of the alcohol, but she could not resist reaching out her arms to wrap them around his neck. She attentively looked at every detail of the features of his face. His cold, jet-black eyes were unfocused. Jade felt that deep down, he was full of tranquility. He always had an intense aura, and his manner of speech had an annoying tone to it. But she was not able to talk back to him. His chiseled features seemed as if they were meticulously carved and gave her the feeling that he was noble. Jade was becoming even more obsessed with him. "Have you seen enough?" Dario lowered his gaze and looked down at Jade. He started to feel a ripple in his heart. Jade smiled and unknowingly said something from her heart. "How can you be so good-looking? You're even prettier than those female celebrities on TV. God, it's really unfair. Why would a man be so good-looking?" Jade sounded slightly jealous, which dumbfounded Dario. After she stopped talking, she reached out her slender fingers and unrestrainedly touched his handsome face without knowing that no one had ever dared to touch him so recklessly before. "Do you want drunken sex again?" Dario stared at her delicate, rosy cheeks. At that moment, her misty eyes and red plump lips were like beautiful flowers that he could not help but pick. "No. When did I ever have drunken sex?" She was in a bad mood because she remembered what the nurse had told her that morning. She told her that her grandmother's condition was already critical, and if she did not make a decision right away, her grandmother might not be able to stay alive. However, just like her aunt said, the surgery would cost more than $300,000. The Winslet family gave her two choices. One was to agree to their arrangements and marry the rich CEO. Another was to give up on her only family. She knew how ruthless the family was, and that they were willing to watch her grandmother die, so she was terrified. Deciding between these two choices was difficult. Jade carefully caressed his face. She traced its outline to his tall nose and his eyes. Dario just gazed at her quietly from the beginning to the end. Why do we have so many choices to make in life? Why do they want me to make such a painful decision? Jade muttered to herself. In the next second, she felt Dario's cold lips forcefully pressed against hers. Just as she was about to slide her tongue into his mouth, he shoved her away. Jade was slightly surprised and subconsciously took a step back. Her first thought was, does he dislike me? Do you know what you're doing? Dario squinted his eyes as they darkened, and he clenched his fist tightly without Jade noticing.